words that indicate action in a sentence are known as verbs. So verbs are also known as action words in a sentence. Now there are again different types of verbs. For instance, the two main categories are main verb or the primary verb and auxiliary verb, which is also known as the helping verb. We'll talk about the auxiliary verb in a while. Let us first of all discuss the main verb. Alright, that's the primary verb. For instance, words like kick, jump, sit, play, cry, dance, sing. These are all examples of the main verb in a sentence. The boy kicked the ball. So kicked is the main verb, the primary verb, the action verb, right? Now, verbs can also be transitive and intransitive verb. Now, what's the meaning of a transitive verb and how is it different from an intransitive verb? Now, verbs that take an object after it is a transitive verb, which means when there is an object after a verb, that verb is known as a transitive verb. For instance, she is writing a book. So a book is the object and writing is the verb, right? So this is a transitive verb. Now, we smiled. The child cried. So there is no object. Have you noticed? In the two sentences that I have mentioned just now, we smiled. The child cried. Yes, there is a verb, but the verb has no object, right, after it. So such type of verbs are known as intransitive verb. So do remember the two distinctions, transitive and intransitive verbs. Now let us talk about the helping verbs in a sentence. Helping verbs, that is auxiliary verbs. So auxiliary verbs, they help the main verb in a sentence in expressing meaning. For instance, you see in the sentence, she is writing a book. Writing is the main verb and is the auxiliary verb. She has taken her food. So has taken. Taken is the main verb. Has is the auxiliary verb. Now, primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. When we talk about auxiliary verbs, there are two classifications. Primary auxiliaries, which means they are the different forms of the be, do and have verbs. So be, what are the different forms of the be verb? Am, is, are, was, were, been, being, right? Do, what are the different forms of the do? Done, did. And the different forms of has is have, has, right? Had. And so what are modal auxiliaries now? They indicate modality. Modal auxiliaries, they indicate modality. They express, what do they express? Certainty, possibility, willingness, yes, obligations, and also necessity and ability. Now, what are the examples of modal auxiliaries? Can, could, may, might, shall, should, right? These are all examples of modal auxiliaries. Now, what are phrasal verbs? Phrasal verbs are when we add a preposition or a particle, yes, to a verb, then we have a phrasal verb. For instance, put on, yes, when we are adding the preposition on with put, we have a phrasal verb. Put on means to wear, right? Take off, yes, that's another example of a phrasal verb. Another example of a phrasal verb is, for example, given, come across, right? These are all examples of phrasal verbs. So do remember the different types of verbs that I have discussed. Yes, the main verb, the primary verb or the action verb, right? And we have the helping verb or the auxiliary verb. right? And when we talk about the main verb, we can talk about the further two distinctions, that is the transitive verb and the intransitive verb.